Thanks, Suni, and thanks for being here, and thanks for having me here. So my name is Wolf. I'm a software developer. I work for ThoughtWorks, and right now my current project is Munich-based, so I'm here. And over the last 3 years, I have been working on OpenMRS. And so today I would like to share some experiences I made over those last 3 years. OpenMRS in itself is not related to refugees, but it's an example of what we call humanitarian software, which is software that's related to the well-being of human beings. And Suni mentioned it's quite interesting. We like developing software, and this makes it very easy for us, in principle, to contribute and to change the world. So in the old days, I could have donated money, and someone could have spent that money on something. Today, I can write a piece of software, and I know the software is being used all over the world to change the livelihood of people. So, on the agenda today, I would like to give you a brief introduction into OpenMRS. This is derived from a talk I gave at FrostCon 2 years ago, and there we had a live demo, and we looked in more depth in kind of stories that we implemented for OpenMRS. I'm going to leave that out today, but the focus is going to be how you can contribute to a project such as OpenMRS, and most importantly, what we learned over the last 3 years, which kind of patterns are working and which ones did we find difficult. So, OpenMRS stands for Open Medical Record System. It's a system to capture and analyze patient data. So if you go to a hospital, or if we go to a hospital, our data is captured in IT systems and then analyzed, and so the treatment we get is supported by IT systems, and this is something we take for granted. In the places where OpenMRS is used, it typically replaces paper-based medical records. And so by moving on to such a system, we can improve healthcare delivery to people attending hospitals in these countries. And it's open source software. It has been put into existence in 2004, started in Africa, and was kind of supported by 2 NGOs from the United States, and it's widely used today. So up here, this is possibly a bit difficult to see. You see a photo of a patient record, which is from a mom of a colleague of mine who works in India. And typically, if people go to a hospital, it looks like this, or the records are stored paper-based, and a doctor may have 60 seconds to make sense of a booklet full of scribbled patient records. And I mean, we know that it's not easy to decipher a doctor's handwriting, but doctors have to take decisions based on these records, and this is not delivering state-of-the-art medical stuff. A brief map where OpenMRS is used, so it's largely used in Africa and in Asia. I find these quite interesting. It is used in the United States and also in Western Europe. So honestly, I don't really understand who these users are. Because if you look at the code base, if you look at the software, it would hardly pass any certification and would hardly pass any barriers or any regulation. And effectively, OpenMRS is centered around a simple data model. And the data model defined at the top a concept dictionary. And concepts are medical terms, such as blood is a medical term, or blood type is a medical term, or the possible value A for blood type is another medical term, and then ailments are medical terms. And these concepts allow people to capture data in a structured way. So you wouldn't have free text, but it's based on reference data, which allows this data to be captured systematically and, most importantly, to be analyzed. So if you have, say, tuberculosis in one particular area of a country or one region, it's easy to capture the data and analyze what kind of treatment is actually effective. Then you have concepts like encounter, which is I'm going to the hospital, and this is kind of a visit, and during a visit I have multiple encounters, so my blood pressure may be analyzed or measured, I may have an x-ray, there are forms which are filled out by medical staff, there are observations, so somebody may conclude I'm suffering from cough, that would be the observation, there would be an order, take that syrup 3 times a day, and data about the patient. And the system is pretty basic, but it's extensible. So it provides a plugin mechanism where you can develop plugins for particular purposes. So if in your area, in your region, you need a particular feature in the system, you can bolt it onto OpenMRS and onto the underlying data model. The tech stack is pretty simple, it's pretty bare bones. It's a Java application based on Spring and Hibernate, MySQL for persistent storage, and Tomcat as a web container. This is kind of a good thing and a bad thing at the same time, because sometimes when we talk to people and try to interest them in developing for OpenMRS, they may say, this is boring, this is a boring tech stack, what do I learn about it? However, it's important to have a simple and reliable tech stack. So it's important that the tech stack allows people to start working on OpenMRS. Sometimes when looking at extensions, we find they use very exotic technologies, which in the long term makes them more difficult to maintain, or you may not find committers who are familiar with a given technology. For contributing, there are effectively 3 ways. When you start working on OpenMRS, you may want to look at what's called introductory tickets. So they are fairly simple and kind of easy to solve. Then there's a process called community developers, and there are tickets for community developers. They are kind of a bit more advanced, and they are kind of the serious stuff where someone within a product owner within OpenMRS decides, oh, this is more important than that. This goes into the next sprint or next iteration. Or you may work on an actual project. These are kind of larger pieces of functionality. For example, I briefly mentioned the idea of concepts. And there is a project that deals with how to propose new concepts. So if you're using OpenMRS, you can create concepts in your local installation. And then you might find at some point other people may be interested in this concept as well. And there's a process around how to propose concepts to kind of committee, and they decide whether it's going to be adopted in the standard concept library. And the software supporting this process is developed by colleagues of mine as a full-blown project. So once you found a ticket, you can claim it, you fork the Git repository, you create a branch, you work on the ticket, and when you're done, you just submit a pull request. That's pretty straightforward. What's kind of interesting is in doing so, you need to talk to people and kind of understand, oh, what's this ticket actually about? You find a brief description in a Jira system, but then it wouldn't answer all the questions you have while developing. And that was quite an interesting experience. So when I did my first ticket, I read the description, and it said, should extend search in such and such a way. And then I said, oh, actually at this point it could go left or right. So what is it supposed to do? So I talked to a business analyst working for OpenMRS, and the response I got, just start by writing a test, and it was nice because I said, yes, sure, I would really love to, but I need to understand what it's about. But then eventually we got together on Skype and we just talked about it. Code jams are kind of events where you just get together for a weekend or just for a single day or maybe just a few hours in the evening. And these are the ingredients we found useful for running code jams. So first you need people to do stuff. And then you need to think about what things do you want to work on. And you need to prepare tickets and stories. And this is really, really important, because when people kind of just get together and say, hey, let's start coding, and they look at the OpenMRS Jira and they find, oh, this sounds interesting, but hang on, I don't really understand this story, let's pick another one. This can be quite time consuming, so you would want to be well prepared. You need a location such as here, and the most important thing, you need to find a way to keep going. And this is bringing me very close to the end of my talk, and this is the key question. how can you create a sustainable group working on this stuff? So personally, I worked on OpenMRS at different levels. So I solved tickets myself, and I was pairing with a colleague. And I organized a number of code jams in our Hamburg office, and I visited a group of developers in Cologne, and we ran a few code jams. But what we actually failed to achieve is have a sustainable group that continuously and ongoingly delivers work to OpenMRS. And this is, the question is, what is on your dashboard? So if you run these code jams, there are kind of different levels. You could just have fun, get together and say, hey, we're doing something good, we are changing the world, this is great stuff. And we all get pizza, as we are going to get very soon. And then it's important to create awareness. So I talked at different conferences about OpenMRS, and there's kind of a set of interesting questions people ask when you talk about this the first time. But the key point to me is it's about effectiveness. It's about the ratio of the time we spend doing things and the time we spend having fun and pizza and creating awareness to the actual how many lines of code do we commit to the cause. And have we actually changed the life of the people using this software and for whom this project has been set up. And to me this has become the key point. So you need to understand what are your KPIs, what is your business model, if you like. It may sound harsh at first because you say, hey, we are here to do good things, and now this guy is talking about KPIs and business model and effectiveness. But any minute I can devote to working for humanitarian software, be it OpenMRS or be it software for refugees, I want to be as effective as possible because other people need my help and I want to help them. And the less effective I am, the less I help these people, as simple as that. And I believe these days we see kind of a bit of a wave of goodwill and projects that are being put in place. So we are seeing hundreds of mobile applications that help you translate things, and how many of them are going to be used in a year's time. So my advice at the same time as my plea to you would be choose wisely which project to support and try to create kind of a sustainable effort and a sustainable group. I would rather have someone contributing a couple of hours just once a month, but over a period of 2 to 3 years or maybe even longer, than having a flash in the pan where people are very enthusiastic and then after a month perhaps nobody really looks back and is not interested. So these are my experiences from humanitarian software. Any questions?
How do you count the users on the map? You were wondering that there are users in North America and Western Europe, despite the fact that it's not certified here.
Right.
How does the project count users?
Okay, so the question is, how does the project know about where it's being used? There's quite a large international community. So at a given point of time, there are thousands of committers, and so there's support for people who start using this. So I guess, so I picked this map from the OpenMRS website, and I guess they do know where people are setting up installations because people get in touch and they are kind of exchanging data. My guess is that these would be kind of private institutions who just decided to use the system.
And the second question I have is, how is data entry organized? You showed that wonderful photograph of a patient record. Somebody has to type it in.
Yeah, so it is simple HTML forms. So technically it's a web application. So you log into the system and you've got different rights, kind of which part of the system you can use. There are kind of admin rights, and there's kind of medical staff who are just using the system but wouldn't be allowed to configure the system or change technical settings. And then you either use forms which come ready built in, and there's also a mechanism that allows you to easily create new forms by kind of a very simple language where you say I need these elements from my data store in those forms. Yeah.
How do people get to know about this?
Well, it's interesting. So I learned about this from colleagues of mine. So So I work for ThoughtWorks, and we are interested in humanitarian software. And just colleagues of mine told me about this, and so we did some projects in India and in Hawaii that are based on OpenMRS, where we kind of put software in place for hospitals. And once you know about it, you can start doing some research and say, hang on, what's else there? And other projects I'm aware of, but I haven't worked on, it's a system called Rapid FTR, which is operated by UNICEF, which helps kind of relocating or reconnecting families that get distributed in during a crisis. And another one is MyForceX, which is a microfinance system, open source system. So once you understand, hang on, there's this kind of humanitarian software, it's easy to find these systems.
How do you educate people about the use of the software in the countries where you want to implement it? Is there anyone on the ground, or is it all
right.
via internet?
Yeah, okay, the question is how do people learn to use the software, and how are they educated if they want to install it? It comes at different levels. There is a manual, and there are kind of user manuals and technical manuals as well. And the system can be installed on a large range of pieces of hardware. You can literally have it on a single PC under your desk, or you can have kind of a serious installation with redundancy built in and the like. And I suppose if you want to use it, you can get in touch with people from OpenMRS if you need some help. So as a technical person, it was pretty straightforward to kind of install it and get it up and running. Okay, thank you.
So, we continue. This is Refugees Online, and I think it's extremely important initiative because refugees need internet access. They really need it. And also very many projects like there's a university, online university for refugees, Karen University, who has lots of students, newly founded, how can they do online study without internet access? There's Refugees on Rails, I think it's a great idea to teach refugees about IT, because who can develop better applications for refugees but then themselves? And also I think it gives them a great chance to learn something that's really useful for here or wherever they will be in a couple of years. But everything builds on the ability to work on a computer, have internet access, and they don't have it. It's complete catastrophe. Like, as I said here, Tübinger Straße, 300 people, no internet. This is where Refugees Online comes in.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much for the nice introduction, Sonny. I have my presentation is in German. I didn't simply have the time to translate it, but I will talk in English, so don't worry. And I guess that sometimes the pictures speak for itself, so don't worry about it. My name is Volker Werbusch. I'm the Chairman, Vorsitzender, Vereinsgründer, so I'm the founder of Refugees Online. This is a charity organization. We are about a year old, so we just start to walk, so to speak. It has been started off as a family business. So me and my wife, we're running this organization, or we initially started this organization. When we started this 1 year ago, we didn't have the intention to make it as big as it is as of today. We are overwhelmed of the growth and the speed we're rolling out sites. Would have never thought that it's going to be that fast. And that has nothing to do with our performance. It has only to do with what Sonny just explained. There is the need for internet in every refugee shelter. And as internet access is not part of the services provided by the government to refugees, it's only food, shelter, and medical services. So nobody cares if us as volunteers or other initiatives like Freifunk would take the lead here. Now we have our center of operations, so to speak, at my place in Gilching, which is west of Munich. So my house looks like Mediamarkt a little bit, so there are PCs all over the place and servers and all kinds of things. My wife is always kind of, you know, arguing with me that I should find another place where I should move all these boxes, but nonetheless, it's going to be fine for the time being. I'd like to briefly explain you what we do, and I have just taken a few pictures I shot over the course of our work, and walk you through that. So we are operating and installing internet access, free internet access in refugee shelters. That may sound very easy because all of you have internet access at home. You have your router, probably in the living room. You sit on the couch with your laptop and you enjoy internet access. Now think of a refugee shelter, and some of you, or maybe all of you, have been into refugee shelters. This is totally different from your living room. There is no couch and no router next by which you can use. It's either old military facilities, it's sports halls, it's all kinds of weird buildings which just have been turned into refugee shelters. And in most of the places you don't even have power, not to talk about existing Ethernet cabling or anything like that. So the few pictures I brought with me tonight, this is a place in Germering where we got a room for some computers we put there. The other place is also in Germering. It's on another floor. This is some pictures of the access points we have been put up there. This is a former pub, military pub, so that's where the soldiers enjoyed their beer in the evening. Now it's converted into, we call it the TV room. There was a TV when this shelter in Fürstenfeldbruck has opened. The TV is gone now, but now it's internet there, which is also good. And it's always a crowded place if this is open, because people come and they bring their smartphones and their tablets and their computers and whatever device they may use and log on to the internet we're providing. And this is especially for you, Sunny, as you work for Teradata. This is a picture taken on the Teradata Sponsor Day. Teradata is fortunately amongst our sponsors, and they organize the so-called Teradata Cares Day, which is one day where some selected volunteers are paid by Teradata to take a day off and work for refugees, which I really appreciated, and we had a lot of fun. You missed that event, unfortunately. Were you there?
Yeah, no, they didn't take me. There were too many applications.
Okay. All right. Now let me share with you the intentions, why I thought it's going to be important to provide internet at refugee shelters. Although the reasons for that may be obvious, or they may sound obvious. When I started off last year to think about doing something voluntarily for refugees, I've been talking to all kinds of organizations like Caritas, like Innere Mission, like you name them. And they always came up with things like, oh yeah, you could work at the clothes chamber and sort things, or you could play football with the refugees and things like that. And I said, well, I'm an engineer, I'm sorry. I would like to have something technical. And then I started to look on the internet and do some Google searching on initiatives with a more technical background. And I found Refugees Emancipation. Refugees Emancipation is also a charity organization. They're based in Potsdam, which is close to Berlin. And this association is completely organized by refugees themselves. There are no helpers, there are no volunteers. It's all done by refugees. And the reason why they founded their association is the same reason why I founded Refugees Online, because there is no internet in refugee shelters. And that's where the spark of inspiration came from for me to take that idea from Berlin or from Potsdam to Bavaria and found Refugees Emancipation. This is a picture of my wife, the chairman of Refugees Emancipation, myself and his wife. We brought some notebooks from here to Berlin. The problem they had, I have to say past tense, which is good, they had in Berlin is that not many companies were willing to donate devices. It's much easier to do that or to get donated computers here in Munich because we have so many IT companies. Berlin is kind of industrial nowhere land, so to speak, and they really had a hard time to organize computers. So I said, okay, I'm gonna try to find a bunch of devices and bring it with me. And when I was up there in Potsdam, past tense, because in the meantime they have found supporters, lots of supporters, and they've got donations, so they're out of the dark. They have enough money on their bank account, they can pay for everything, so this is the good news. All right, there are some obstacles when you would have the idea to provide internet in refugee shelters, and I would like to briefly walk you through these obstacles. The first thing, which we only have in Germany, that's a German, how should I say, I miss a word now. Also
It's a special.
Yeah, a German special. A German special, thank you, Lars. It's called Störerhaftung. What does that mean? Somebody who is operating an internet access allows a third party to use this internet access, and this third party does something illegal, maybe downloading a song from a weird website. Now, as this somebody cannot be identified, the government or the police chases the operator of the internet line, and he has to pay for the things a third party has done on his line because he gave it away for free or without any protection. And this is kind of weird. Consequently, this would mean that the rifle industry, for example, or companies manufacturing rifles would have to be held liable for other people shooting other people with their rifles, which isn't happening. I mean, this is completely isolated from each other, but in the internet it's going to be put together, and you have a risk if you share your internet access that somebody is coming to you and saying, oh, you've done something illegal and here's the bill you have to pay. So this is Störerhaftung. We only have that in Germany. You also need approval from the operator of the refugee shelter. You can't just walk in and say, hello, here I am, here's my internet access, and everybody can use it. That's not allowed. You have to talk to these guys, be it Landratsamt, be it the government, be it municipalities. You have to get their permission, and this is not just walk by and say, oh, can I do that? No, this is a month, even week, month-taking process of convincing them that you would like to do something good for the refugees, because they're all afraid of Störerhaftung. There it comes back. So we had approximately the first 3 months after we founded the association, we just spent in talking to operators of refugee shelters to get their permission to get in. And when we got the permission, first time that happened in Fürstenfeldbruck, which was our first project, they say, well, it's limited, it's only a pilot project, and we're going to watch you, and if something goes wrong, you have to take everything out and remove it. Where I'm saying, hey, we have spent about 3,000 euros to put all the equipment in Fürstenfeldbruck, and I still have the risk that they say, well, we're not happy with it, just remove it. So that's something which you have to keep in mind when you provide internet access to refugee shelters. Now the other thing is, there's not, it sounds negative, but it's not meant negative. There's not much technical know-how in some of the helper circles. So you have people there which are volunteering, which are trying to help, but they have no idea how to program a router. They have no idea how to set up a wireless LAN. They have no idea how to, put an Ethernet switch into operation. And when I'm doing that remotely over the phone or using Skype or something like that, I'm going to spend hours and hours and hours explaining them, okay, here's how you program a Fritzbox, right? And that's a bit annoying, and that's why I'm really, really happy that initiatives like Nerds for Refugees or all those hackathon or Hack for Refugee initiatives are coming up now, because that is the know-how we need in the helper circles, okay? And this accelerates the whole thing. If, for example, in Weilheim we have found a very young IT professional, and I trained him how our system works and how all this is going to be installed. And now he's running almost at the speed of light. This is amazing. He's doing an amazing job, and I have a lot of relief and more time for other projects because he's running on its own. And at the end of my presentation, I'm gonna give that idea to you. So if you like what you see, just copy it and do it yourself. I mean, go. Don't wait for anything. There are so many shelters without internet, even next door. We mentioned it many times this evening. So, despite all this, of course, you have to think about money. Where does the money comes from? You have to think about maintenance. In a refugee shelter, you need ruggedized equipment. You need this is sometimes a very rough environment. So don't come up with Soho routers or anything like that. They won't last long. So you have to think about maintenance. Availability of internet lines is sometimes an issue, especially when we talk about former military facilities, Kasernen. When there were no civil lines going into that building, you have a hard time. So you have to think about how to get or where to get the internet access from. You have to make sure that you have a frequent service there, so that helpers are available to help the refugees and see if everything's working. And they all have smartphones, but not everybody is familiar with setting up wireless LAN or connecting to wireless LAN and stuff like that. So it's just not that simple to go there, switch everything on and walk away. You have to go back there now and then and figure out if things are still working. This I mentioned already. You don't have Ethernet cabling in most of the refugee shelters, so you better order a couple of kilometers of Ethernet cables and a number of sockets. Have that in the trunk. And some organizational issues, like you are coming to a refugee shelter as a volunteer and everything's locked. You need to have access to, for example, where the technical infrastructure is stored. This door is locked. You don't have the key. You need to find somebody to open that door. And this is really time consuming. And then this somebody may be the security and they say, who are you? I've never seen you here before. I'm not going to open this door. Show me your permission. Then you got to go back to the people who are running this shelter saying, well, I need access to this because I need to put my cables down, and then they need to call the security. It's mind-blowing. Okay, it's just, you know, it just takes so much time and so much energy, and it's, to me, this is something which is completely redundant and unnecessary, but I have to face it. Sometimes you cope with the operational hours of the staff on the ground there. I have a job to be done, so I'm working 8 hours, 9 hours a day, and I'm doing some of my voluntary work in the evening. Now, in the evening, none of these operational guys is still there. So I had one case where I would like to have access to one particular room in that shelter, and that took me about 4 weeks to find somebody who is there when I have time. So it's not that simple. It's just the case that sometimes you have locked doors and you can't just open them. And of course, it's responsibilities. You know this, right? This means it's not me, it's him and him and him and him. This kind of pointing to each other when it comes down to responsibilities, you will have in all refugee shelters. You don't find a single person who is saying, well, I'm running this facility and I'll show you where you have to go and what you have to do. No, this is never happening. That's my experience. So, I have to speed up a bit, I think. Let me talk briefly about the technical things we have put in place. We are using the captive portal feature of a very popular firewall software called pfSense. It's an open source software, so it doesn't cost anything other than downloading and installing it to an appropriate hardware. It's scalable, which is kind of nice. So we run everything from simple router appliances to high performance servers, depending on the number of people we have to serve. The Wi-Fi codes, we call them vouchers, can be easily printed off, and we hand them out to the refugees. For legal reasons, every refugee using our service has to register with us. So we have a list with names and some other data, which we store in a safe place, just in case somebody does something illegal. Then we are forced by by law to give that information to the authorities, which hasn't happened yet. So that's how we organize our hotspot systems. A very new feature, which is going to be launched this week, thanks to Nerds for Refugees, because one of these guys has programmed this. We have a self-service portal. So refugees in certain camps where we switch this on, and if they have a German mobile phone number, the law says they are identified because they have a German mobile phone number. So they can type in this mobile phone number, and then a voucher with the code will be sent to them by SMS. Which takes a lot of our workload off, because sitting down, registering people, writing their names in lists is quite time consuming. So I have to say that this has been done by Christian Knebel in Düsseldorf. He's part of the Nerds for Refugees group. And I just posted the question, is anybody out there willing to do that? And he came and said, yes, it's me. And it took him about 2 weeks. So this is just great. And the other thing which we had to put in place, because in the meantime, we're running 35 sites. So monitoring is everything up and running, is also something time consuming. And again, thanks to Nerds for Refugees, because this application has been programmed by one other guy in the organization, is a simple server monitoring. Green says everything's okay, red says something wrong or not even installed. All these above, they're not yet installed, but already put in the system. And that was about 3 days, 4 days of work for him to put that in place. And he's from Saarbrücken. He's a PhD student at the University of Saarbrücken. His name is Anjo Faltig, and I thank him publicly here that he has contributed to our project. Now, some facts or some data about the projects we're running. Let me start with the first one, and it's still our biggest one, followed by the Bayern-Kaserne, which we do together with Freifunk. Lars Mentrup is here. He has helped us to install things there. So in Fürstenfeldbruck we run, in the meantime, 2 internet lines, 12 megabit each. It's not much, but better than nothing. We have around 1,600 people living there. The regular service we are providing to the refugees is done by 12 helpers. And we operate 15 PCs on 2 different locations in the facility. One of the helpers is also here. Azur is making his service in Fürstenfeldbruck once a week, I think, or twice a week, or something like that. On the system, we have about between 200 and 300 users at the same time, 24 hours a day. I came home from an event last weekend quite late, 3 o'clock in the morning, and I was curious and I logged into the server monitoring, and there were 260 something people online in Fürstenfeldbruck. So the reason for them to use the internet at such a weird time is pretty simple, because the line is always congested during daytime, and some people, when they Skype or send mails or Facebook or whatever to their families in Syria or Pakistan or Afghanistan, they do that in the middle of the night. We have laid about half a kilometer of cable. We run 2 servers there. We have installed 9 wireless LAN access points. And as I mentioned earlier, the project was about 3,000 euros just for the hardware. I'm not talking about any of the hours we have done there voluntarily. Another thing is a so-called Gemeinschaftsunterkunft. So it's not a first reception unit. It's a former pension a home for retired people. It was run by the Caritas. The retired people have moved to some other place, some newer place, and this has converted into a refugee shelter. And we run 1 line there, 16 megabits. We have wireless LAN on 7 floors. There is a computer room existing with 12 PCs. We have 1 server and 9 people who are doing the regular service there, helping the refugees to make the most out of the PCs. And this was about 1,500 euros. And this is the most funny project we did. You would wonder what that is. And I tell you, this is an access point. We don't have, or we didn't have an outdoor access point at that time. All we had was indoor access points. And the problem is this is at the sports hall in Inning. we were not allowed to install anything in the sports hall. But there was this field where the catering took place. I mean, the summer was nice, so everybody was sitting outside anyway. So we said, okay, this would be a nice position for an access point, but we didn't have an outdoor access point, and we didn't have any money in our bank account to buy one. So somebody said, well, just put a bucket on it, and that's what we did. And it worked. For 4 months, it survived every thunderstorm, every rain shower, everything. There's a little Cisco access point, and all we did was put a bucket on it, and it was working fine all the time. It was used with, it was serving 194 people, and the maximum number of clients we had at the same time on that single bucket thing was 112 on one access point, which is kind of, you know, I looked at it and said, whoo, whew. Think of 112 people sitting in your living room joining one Fritzbox or whatever the router is you may have, right? Smoke is coming out of that thing. So thanks to Cisco, they are building quite nice equipment. This was running all the time with no failure. Now to sum up, we're operating right now at 35 locations. I have changed one or two of the slides I had last time at the Starlight presentations, not naming all of them because it's just too many, but I would like to mention that here because we had a discussion over the pizza concerning Freifunk. 2 of them we are doing jointly together with Freifunk, Bayernkaserne and the sports hall in my place in Gilching. The way the collaboration works is pretty simple. Freifunk is coming and installing all the wonderful routers, and we're providing the uplink, i.e. we're paying the internet line. That's the way we share, and it's not always necessary if you work with Freifunk because you can use available internet lines as uplink if people are ready to share that. Especially in military facilities like Bayernkaserne, it's pretty hard to get access from outside. So that's why we thought it's a good idea to bring the line to the facility, and then in Bayernkaserne, Lars has done the job, in Gilching, one other guy from Freifunk. So that's working fine, and we're happy in collaborating with Freifunk. The problem we sometimes see, and we had this discussion earlier, some operators of refugee shelters still believe that Freifunk is something illegal because they have their VPN tunnels where all the internet traffic goes outside of Germany, and some people say, ooh, these guys are strange because they have something to hide because they push all the traffic to the outside, which is in my mind completely nonsense. I mean, name me the law which would forbid anybody to open a VPN tunnel to another place on this planet. There is no such thing. But anyway, I have done the math the other day in just counting the number of people who are using our service right now. And obviously there are 2 big facilities there, Bayernkaserne with several hundred, if not thousand inhabitants or people living there, Fürstenfeldbruck with 1,600. We're reaching out to 5,000 people. And if you would have asked me last year, same time, when I was just about to start that thing, right, and asked me about the question on how many people do you think will use your service in a year's time, I would never ever thought that we're going to reach beyond 500 people, because that was just not in my imagination. And now we're reaching 5,000, and again, we have about 2-3 new sites coming up every week. And that's kind of mind-blowing. I really appreciate all the people who have donated to us and all the helpers who are keeping the systems up and running out there. Well, the consequence of that is I have started, which wasn't my intention at the beginning, to enter into political discussions. Yesterday I had the opportunity to meet one, let's say, mid-size important politician, and I was starting to talk about money, because we're at the point where we only can move forward if we either increase the number of volunteers working for us or with us, or if we get some money from the government and do it a little bit more professional. I'm not saying we're not professional in what we're doing, but what I'm saying is we would then be able to spend some money for things, i.e. not putting a bucket over the access point rather than buying an outdoor access point and doing it the right way. I have no result. I just started these discussions, but I will not give up, because I saw in some instances where we're gonna waste money for other companies who are not providing good services, and nobody's questioning that. And this is also my tax money and your tax money, and I'm really not very happy to see that money being wasted and me chasing every single euro from people who are donating to us, which is kind of, well. And the thing is, we are trying to multiple our know-how and the way we have, the experiences we made in the last year. We're not going to keep it as a secret. It's not a business model or anything like that. Everybody who wants to know how we're doing things, we'll tell him. We give him the specifications, we give him the configuration files for pfSense, we show him where to buy the hardware, la la la. I would like to get that out of my head into the heads of other people who can then take it and develop it further. Now we have a partner association, and this is really something I would like you to think about. The partner association is called Asyl Plus. These guys have on stock, as of today, about 600 PCs, which are ready to go to be installed in refugee shelters. The problem is logistics, and the problem is to find those refugee shelters who have the space and the willingness of the operator to allow PCs in there. So if you have a project, a refugee shelter, or a free room or something where you could use PCs, give me a call or call these guys directly. They're more than happy to ship as many as you want, literally. So really this is something very useful, because what they did is not only collecting PCs and refurbishing them. What they did is they collected, they call it an online learning platform. Basically it's a set of bookmarks to all different things you can think of, be it language learning, be it a school, be it university. They're working together with the Cairo University. They have all kinds of useful things on their list, and it's really important that they get their stuff out to the refugees. So if you have projects, give me a call or send me a mail. Well, we've got some sponsors. Some of the companies you may know, some others you may not know. Let me just focus on the prominent ones. We've got Microsoft there, we've got Teradata, DocuWare from Germering, and I think the others are all a bit smaller. These companies are either helping us in providing hardware or money, which is also important, but they also providing us help, like Teradata did with the Teradata Cares Day. So that's something we really enjoy, and I would like to say thank you to all those guys here. And there are many individuals which I can't just list here who have donated to us. Now, as Christmas is coming up, I have a wish list, and on my wish list are a few things which I have in mind, but you never know. First thing on that list is I would like to get some money from the government, or from the local government, or from the public sector, let me put it this way. I have the idea of turning the association into a GmbH, into a company, but the company can also be a charity organization, so it's called a GmbH. And then hire a bunch of qualified refugees. We have met so many really highly qualified refugees in the camps. It's just mind-blowing. IT engineers, all kinds of people who are there, who could help but not allowed to work right now. But at a certain point in time, they will be allowed to work, and I would like to, select a few of them and pay them as I would pay any other employee, and help us to help others. That's the idea. But I need some money to do that, and I would like to work a little bit more structured. At this point, I'm running my own company, and I'm really used to be in the driving seat. Right now, with the Refugees Online thing, I'm not in the driving seat. I'll be pushed around from one project to the other, and I'm trying to not lose sight or anything like that. And I would like to get back to a more structured approach where I can say, okay, here's a project, that's what we have to do, and this is the people you have to talk to. And right now we're just saying, oh, here's a project, oh, here's something wrong, and there's a red light, I have to take care of this server, that doesn't work anymore. It's a capacity problem. And not only with me, but also with the other guys who are working with us. Now, the Second thing on that list is I would like to raise the awareness in the heads of the bureaucrats in Germany that internet is not a luxury for refugees. It is damn not a luxury for those refugees. We have about 1 million people here, 965,000 I heard yesterday, end of November, but December is still ahead of us. And some of them will stay here, and we have to integrate them. We have to help them to get their feet on the ground here. And think of how you would organize that not having internet access. Find a job, no internet access. Find a place to live, no internet access. Connect with others, no internet access. It's just impossible. We're going to shoot ourselves in the foot and make us, make us slower than we could be if we still have the bureaucrats thinking of internet access as something which is luxury. So it comes right after the flat screen TV in the living room. This is nonsense. It's an essential part of your life as electricity, as water, as wastewater, and all these kind of things. It's an infrastructure thing, and I think it should be provided to every refugee living in Germany. And the last thing is that the time me and other people working on this subject in discussing with operators of refugee shelters to allow us to bring free internet access to the refugees is cut down to 0. Okay, on that list I said it's going to be shortened. I know it's going to it will never be 0, but what I would like to see, and that's also part of the political discussion I have started, is that there should not be a discussion at all. If somebody like us or like Freifunk or an individual, doesn't matter, comes and says, I would like to bring internet to a refugee shelter. Right now, we still have weeks, months of discussion with the officials if they allow that or not. I can name you half a dozen projects here in the greater area of Munich where we are still waiting for the permission of getting into that refugee shelter, because one bureaucrat sits there and says, ooh, this is rocket science. Sometimes I have the feeling I'm applying for a fracking drill or something like that, or building a nuclear power plant. All I want is to provide internet to the refugees. Now, last slide. What you can do, what I want you to do is just copy what we're doing, okay? Take the know-how and the experience we have gathered over the course of the last 12 months and do it for yourself, okay? Whether you say, well, let me join Refugees Online, that's also fine, but if you have the idea of doing it a little bit differently or in another place, or I don't know, just do it, okay? Talk to me and I'll get you all the information I have in my head. Now, help us to find more sponsors. The amount of money we're needing every month just to keep the 35 sites alive is around €1,000, okay? And when I'm looking to our bank account today, we got some donations. I can still run for the next 6 months. And then, I don't know, right? I can't just predict when donations are coming in, but we're running at a cost of €1,000 a month, which nobody is paying other than the people who are donating money to us. So we need sponsors. Go to one of the helper circles, go to the refugee shelters, okay, and help the guys there to roll this out, whether it's the PCs from Asyl Plus or whether it's an internet access or something like that. My experience is in the helper circles, IT know-how is something which is really, really rare. So bring this IT know-how to those helper circles. It's really important. And last point I already mentioned, I think, is help Asyl Plus to roll out all these PCs. They really need help because it's a logistic issue. I mean, it's 5 people, right, managing 600 PCs. So it's going to be a bit tough for them. So if you have a room somewhere where they could put 20 PCs, don't call them and say, well, please send them to Munich and I'm here. No, sit in your car, go to Bad Tölz or to Locham, that's their warehouses, grab 20 PCs and roll them out. That's the idea. Thank you very much. Does anybody have questions? Yes, please.
You actually encountered an incident of Störerhaftung.
Well, we are halfway naive, we just did it, and we are halfway professional. I try to understand the current law situation. I'm not a lawyer, I'm an engineer, but as far as I understand the current law situation, what we did would be compliant to the law. Now, in the meantime, we are in that very luxury situation that a very renowned law firm has called me and said, well, we would like to give you a Gutachten, how do you say, report or analysis on your situation. So, and I said, well, I know you guys, your hourly rate is 350 euros, I can't pay that. And they said, no, 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 we're going to do that for free. And I have this report available. The pity is, as they did it for free, I'm not allowed to mention their name, and I'm not allowed to give that report away, which is kind of weird. But anyway, this analysis says that my way of looking at the law was exactly right. So if people, you, anybody else in the room, is sticking to the process we have put in place, you would be safe and you would never be put in jail for Störerhaftung. Okay? Some more questions. Don't be shy. No? All right. Okay. Who is working actually in a refugee shelter? Okay. 1, 2. All right. Who has never been into a refugee shelter? Come on, don't be shy. 1, 2. Okay. All right. Now, I don't know your experience, but I had to learn a few things which I would like to share with you, and I really ask you to just, if you have time, go there, talk to people, just have a look at it. It's amazing. We have 1 million people here, and it's the whole spectrum of a society. So it starts with bloody idiots, and it ends with people who are really on my list of friends right now. And I'm not talking about Facebook friends, I'm talking about real friends, right? And you have to understand, if you work with refugees, not every person who comes here is nice to you, okay? Not every person who comes here is appreciating what you're doing. But here comes the good news. It's the minority of people who are not appreciating and who are not nice. The overwhelming majority of people I met is just, it's just mind-blowing to work with these guys. It really opened my mind. I was open-minded when I started this, but I opened my mind really a bit more in talking to those people. And it's the simple things which keep me alive, so to speak, with all the exhaustment I have with having a job and having these 35 projects to take care of. I'm sitting there in Fürstenfeldbruck 2 hours every week, giving the wireless LAN codes out to the refugees, and I don't talk much to many of them because there's always long queues when we come there. But looking at their smiling faces when I mean, I'm doing almost nothing. I give them a piece of paper with a number so that they can log on the internet, and their faces is just, that's my currency. I'm going to be paid with. And do it. If you've never been to a refugee shelter, go there, talk to the people, find out what you can do. It's an amazing experience. Okay. Can you confirm that, or?
Yes.
Okay. Yes.
Sure. Yeah. It's, where we work is a little bit different because we don't have that long. You can't build up a relationship to the people there because they only stay 1 or 2 days.
Yeah. Well,
but it's still the same situation.
Yeah.
You can provide them with food or build something, and you get the reward for that. I don't have the time to build relationships in the sense you mentioned it as well. But what I notice is that if they have the idea that, oh, there's someone who's listening to me, they start to talk. You just sit down for 5 minutes and listen to their stories. And it's not always funny stories, believe me. I sometimes walked home and said, whoa,
oh my God, you know, you see these people queuing in front of your table. You're giving away the Wi-Fi vouchers, and somebody stands there in a good shape, dressed well, you know, speaks perfect English. You have no idea where he comes from or she, what's the story, right? And if you dig a little bit deeper into some of the stories, and even if you only believe half of what they're saying, which is not fair, I think, but anyway, it's completely different from what I have ever experienced in my life, and I hope I never will. So all I'm saying is, everybody who's engaged or who's got an initiative to help refugees, one of the steps in a certain point in time in your project should be to get in touch with these guys and talk to them. Okay, thank you very much.